It was hard to get motivated to record after January 6th and the horribleness at the Capitol. Plus, I had health issues, but I can now breathe again. Hi there, welcome to episode 11 of Yarns and Yarns, where we talk about all things string related, whether that's yarns as in fibers or yarns as in stories. And sometimes I even talk a bit about my harp strings. Even my Ravelry name is String Dancer. So if you ever want to look me up there, that's how I am. All of the patterns, yarns, books, all the links for that, I will be putting down below. So getting right down to it, I only have one FO, and I don't even have them with me because I finished them and immediately gave them to my mom. But I do have a hoe, sort of. This is what I gave to my mom. This was identical to the FO, except that I was working on them last night and I played Yarn Chicken and I lost. So all I have left on this glove is the shell stitch around the edge. So one row left, and I'm gonna have to join a new ball of yarn. At least I already caked it up. So this was a paid for pattern by Rachel Barlow. It was about a little over $4, and I love it. I am actually going to make a third pair out of a different yarn, different color. But this is a new stitch for me. This is actually called a crocodile stitch. It looks really cool as a dragon scale. And this will be fun to wear when I'm playing harp at the Ren Fair. I still have to hear back from them. And the trouble with a small pattern like this is that there's really not a lot of mindless stitching involved in this. So it's hard to listen to an audiobook or watch any kind of shows or anything. Sometimes the knitting shows are okay because I mostly just stop to look and see what they're making or what yarn they bought. I think it's super cute. I ended up listening to a lot of music while because I have to count a lot, and I've been on a classic rock kick lately. For some reason, my count was always off no matter how careful I was. On the next row, especially with these half double crochets, I wouldn't have enough, and I'd have to like make an extra, wouldn't have enough loops to stitch in. Oh well, still it came out nice. I'm using a size E hook, and I don't know if that's, oh, it's upside down. Of course it is. And I'm using Patton's Croy socks, this one here, and I'm stitching with the Gentry Gray. Really, these don't take long at all. I could easily crank out a pair of these in a day. It's just that I have too many other whips going on right now too. So when my hands get a little tired of knitting, then I work on some crochet to kind of change up the muscles in my fingers. Next whip, I guess you could kind of classify it as a hoe because technically it is off the needles. I cast or bound off, but it's almost halfway done. It's the hood for my Ren Fair hooded mantle. And this, okay, so this is going to drive me nuts. This is the binding or the casing for the I-cord for the hood part that goes around your head, and it is constantly folding back on itself. And I don't know if putting in the I-cord is going to fix that, or if I'm going to have to go and pick up some stays, like the kind of stuff that you would put in a corset or a hoop skirt. And I don't even know if that would fix it. I mean, I guess if the I-cord doesn't work, then I'll go ahead and try it with the stays. If you have any suggestions on how to keep this from folding back, because it blocks my Celtic knotwork, and of course I want everybody to be able to see that. So this is the long tail of the hood, and then I will be picking up stitches along the base. So this is the actual hood, and I knitted in the round starting from here, and so I'm going to be picking up stitches along this bottom edge to start the cape part of it. And I did do a little bit of a goof with this, and you can kind of see. So at some point after joining in the round, when I started my decreases, when you decrease on this, you're only supposed to decrease at the join where you joined in the round. And when I started the decreases, I accidentally started decreasing. I wasn't paying attention, I guess, and started decreasing on the other side too, because I was doing the magic loop. But, and you know, if I sat it, it's kind of hard while I'm holding it up, but if I sat it flat, you could see it's supposed to be straight across the top, and there's a little dip in there, but then it's, you know, all the decreases are supposed to come up from the bottom. That part really is just hanging off my head, so I don't think it matters that well. But so far so good. I'm actually going to wait to finish because I am starting a shawl for my mom, and I will get into all that later because it's part of my acquisitions, and I need these needles for it. But these are the needles I'm using for my hooded cape. They're the Chow twist, and it's the 8 US size 8 5mm needle. I used the 50-inch cord. It's my longest one. I know long cords tend to bother some people, but I'd rather have too much cord than not enough, and it doesn't really bother me. But the interchangeable needles, they don't come loose, works just fine. I'm having a good time. The hood used almost a full skein. This is all I have left from working on the hood. And I'm using loops and threads, soft and shiny, in the parsley colorway, and it's 100% acrylic, and I did that on purpose because the Ren Fair is in May, and I haven't experienced a May here yet in Oklahoma, but hopefully it's not too hot. But that's what the acrylic is for. It's not as hot as wool. And then for the contrast, I'm using Caron Simply Soft in the Sunshine colorway. And the pattern is a paid-for pattern by Anne Des Moines. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It was about $8, so a little bit more, but it was like the best Renaissance style that I could find. I think it looks really cool with the long-tailed hood. I think that looks very Renaissance-y. My next whip, I think I've messed up on. I'm making the shortened version of these opera gloves. When I was knitting these, so they're really lacy, so you definitely have to concentrate. I was not in the right headspace for it at the time. I can't even tell if it's a mistake that I'm going to be able to correct, to tink back. I'm not quite sure what I did, but I was definitely not in that headspace, and I wasn't even in the right headspace to figure it out. It was easy up until then, but it's a paid-for pattern. It was about $4.65, and it's by Karina Blasco. I'd like to make the long ones, but I thought that I might not have enough of my wool left. This was the same wool that I bought for my mom's fingerless gloves, and I think I have a picture of them, so I'm gonna see if I could pop it in here. And this is 100% superwash merino, and the chocolate is
color.
The color is chocolate. And this was, I can't tell who made it because Woolly Works put their sticker right over their name. I guess that was the only place they could go with it on this label. It's from Italy. I might have to frog the whole thing and start over, but it really wasn't that hard. It was just I wasn't paying attention when I made my mistake. I think they'll be really pretty when I'm all done with them. And I'm using the Chalgoose US 2, size 2, and it's 2.75 millimeters needles, and this is the red lace. This is not the twist. So I think these are my typical sock needles. I might have to take this off just to make, well, I'll tell you about it in my acquisitions. I'm going to make another sock head hat and a cowl to match, but you'll see that in a second. And speaking of not very hard lace, this is the same hand flower I showed you last time, and no, I did not make the other one yet. I have so many whips. I need to finish that hood before May, and now I'm going to be making another gift and my mom's shawl, and I'd like to get that done quickly because it's end of January, and by the time I get done and send it to her, it might not be cold anymore in Ohio. So we'll see. For my acquisitions, I finally got to order yarn from the Catt Lady. She has been dyeing such beautiful colors, and I have been wanting to buy some forever. And so these were her last two of her October graffiti in the Perfect Sock base, which is a 80-20 base. That's that. And this is her tag, so you can see she has two cats. One is black and white and the other is orange and white. She spells it Catt Lady with 2 T's for craft all of the things, which is very clever. I saw these, I'm like, these are perfect. I wear these colors all the time. They're just gorgeous. It's like jewels, right? Like amethyst and topaz and emerald. Anyway, so these are going to be my sock head hat and matching cowl. And so although these could wait, I think, because I can finish if I can fix that mistake I made on the opera gloves, I can wait to make these, but it's gonna be hard because these are really nice. I ordered another skein, which I filmed myself showing off first thing this morning because in case this goes for too long and I have to break up the recording. I wanted to get that out of the way so that I could cake it up. Along with the 3 skeins of yarn, she sent me peppermint tea. And I want to show you a little bit more up close. This is pretty true to color. The sun's not real bright today. It's actually very cloudy today. So this is pretty true to color. So you've got a nice, I'm going to get a nice, like, not striping, but like flashing and pooling out of this yarn. I had a hard time making a decision between this and her plum tuckered, which is her Valentine's color that she's got out now. I don't know if she has any left. These were her last 2 of the October graffiti on this base. And I don't know if she's going to make it again next fall. I think she should because I think it's gorgeous. But I trust her to come up with another brilliant one like next year. But yeah, I would go out and check out her Valentine colors because they really are very pretty. This is the Catt Lady yarn. It is her Possumly Soft Merino. It's 100% superwash merino, but it's 17 micron. So if you don't know what microns are, most merino wool's around 24 microns. The lower the number, the softer the wool. I think I'm going to get this from now on every time I want to order some merino. It's incredibly, I can't express how incredibly soft this is. This is absolutely amazing. The color is called Blue Nile. And my mom picked this out because she wears lots of blue. I think it's really pretty. There's lots of, like dark speckly blues. And it's almost I wouldn't say a gradient, because I'll link below. She actually put in a video of how she dyes this particular color. And actually in the video is this specific hank of yarn. I asked her to dye it for me, and she made a video out of it. I love this yarn. I'm going to get this the next time I order yarn from her. The 17 micron is so nice. Oh, and she also included a cute little progress keeper, little kitty, that matches the same blue. Love it. And this is what it looks like all caked up. Isn't that pretty? So you can see it won't be any kind of gradient. It's just mostly light blue with pools of dark and speckles of darker. Hey, now I can get started. And I have another acquisition. This was a yarn winder. It was on sale right after, no, it was on Christmas Day. I ordered it on Christmas Day, and now I don't have to make my hands all crazy sore by balling up a whole skein of yarn. And technically I do have one more yarny acquisition, but it's a gift, so I'm gonna wait. And so my non-yarny acquisitions are a couple of patterns that I won when I was participating in the Stocking Stuffers make-along. It was hosted by Amy from Happy Little Yarn and Lisa from Knit All the Yarn podcast. So the prizes actually was the same prize for both. I actually won from both hosts. I won patterns from Boston Jen's shop. I could pick whichever ones I wanted. I let my mom pick one for her. So she chose the trickle shawl, and that's what I'm using the Blue Nile for. The other one was the tan brick house. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But that one is for me. I thought about making this shawl out of the tan brick house shawl out of the October graffiti, but when I looked at a lot of the projects of what people had made it from, because it's a patterned shawl, it seems to look better with a solid or tonal yarn instead of a yarn that will pool and flash. So I think a simple stockinette pattern like the sockhead hat would work to show off the colors of this one. I do have one last string related acquisition, but not yarn strings, harp strings. I got my CD redone. Well, I redid it. And they came in, so I've got a whole bunch of CDs that I can sell the next time I have a gig, and hopefully if I can play at the Ren Fair, I'll be able to sell a whole bunch of these. But I redid the cover art and made it thinner. There's not the insert that I had in the first one. The first one, it was just lots of words, and yeah, that wasn't working. So all I have is my song list on the back of the cover, and then I put on a QR code so that it sends you directly to my I think my Facebook page, might be my website. I do have a square site set up where I can accept credit cards for credit card payments for lessons and stuff. Eventually I'm going to get set up for lessons. I don't have it set up for the CD yet because I don't know how much it would cost to ship them yet. So I'll have to keep you posted. If you would like to buy a CD, they're $10. You'll have to wait until I get all that organized. And I realized too, as I was putting this together again, my song list in here, there's a couple in here that I can't remember how to play. I recorded these like back in 2007. A few years later, I got real sick with, intense allergies and I couldn't play anymore. Yesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. I don't remember how to play that one. I'm gonna have to relearn it. Brian Baru's March is also in here. I'm gonna have to relearn that one. So yeah, it's a little blend of classical and folk tunes, mostly Irish folk tunes. There's a couple of planksties by Turlough Carolyn in here, which if you got to read The Stone of Kings, which is the second book that I published, he's a major character in that story. Anyway, so there's that. Okay, sorry. One final yarn thing before I move on to books. I got started on the trickle shawl. This is how much I've gotten so far. So this is about a day's knitting. Well, I started about 4 in the afternoon. The beginning, like the cast on and the setup rows were a little fiddly, especially the cast on. It was a little bit tricky to wrap my brain around. I had to do a lot of videos. It called for the Judy's Magic Cast On, I think it's called, where you cast on 2 needles with a magic loop. The video I watched was a Very Pink Knits video, and she said that it's typical to use that for the toe, for toe up socks, where you actually start at the end of the toe instead of, doing the German short rows and with the provisional cast on. I had a hard time because, so you knit a little bit after you cast on the stitches, and then you pick up a stitch in the middle of where you worked before you start working on the next set of needles. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys. The instructions weren't clear on how many stitches you pick up, and I couldn't quite figure that out. What I did was I ended up looking at the next section of the setup row, and I saw, okay, well, there's supposed to be 9 stitches because the instructions didn't say that you should have 9 stitches on your needles at the end of the cast on part. I had to go and see, okay, well, there should be 9, so this is how many I need to pick up. And that's how I figured that out. If that helps you, if you decide to do the trickle shawl, there was one other person who was having trouble, because I was looking, like, who else had trouble with this? Is there anybody to help me figure out how to start this thing? And only one other person had trouble, and nobody answered her question. It was a similar question to me. Like, she was just like me. I couldn't wrap my head around it. She posted it 2 years ago. I might actually comment and see if maybe she figured it out. If she hadn't, I could tell her how I did it. This is where I'm at. And you can see these are the slipped stitches here. Eventually, I'm going to be taking those off. It calls for so many rows, or, and this is the nice thing about the pattern, it gives you how much yarn you should have used up. So I'm going to try to use up all the yarn, except for I'm going to reserve about 10 grams for myself, so I can have a couple of squares to put in my scrappy sock blanket thing. Thing. I'm not doing words this morning. So I've figured out how many grams I should have left for each section based on the percentages in the pattern. So that's really nice. But it's going to be, as you can see, it's really pointed on the edges, and that's because it does a triple increase every other row. So you increase twice on the ends here, and then once before you get to the slip stitches. It's going to make it like this nice heart-shaped shawl design. I think my mom is really going to love this. And again, it is so, so soft. So yeah, I'm definitely ordering this again. 17 micron base is amazing. Seriously, you got to try it. I promise you will not be disappointed. And if you like the blue Nile, I think she still has one, because she dyed 2 in the video, and I think she still has one. So if not, you can just email her, see if she'll do another one for you. And again, one more yarny thing. Sorry, I made notes, and normally I kind of write out everything I want to say because I'm not very good at words when it comes to
Verbalizing them, see?
I'm much better at writing stuff. I did want to show this off because I made a whole bunch of new squares, and you can see every square is has the stitch marker, and when I had to use so many stitch markers for my trickle shawl, now I'm down to 4 yellow ones. I mean, I have plenty of other colors, but I like yellow. So these were the first, I guess, yeah, four squares that I had. I only had 4 the last time you saw this, and I get tired of waiting to make more. So what I ended up doing is I had enough yarn so that I ended up doing like extra squares of this with the same color. So you can see here, this is my hat, and I also did more of the yarn from my Ashton shawlette. And the other thing that I did was, so these are my not convertible mitts. This is the yarn from that. And what I did was I took this and I made sure that when I used the same yarn here, it was just enough of a difference so that it looks like 2 different ones. So I used the different color scheme from that ball of yarn, just repeat it again. So, oh wait, that's the first one. So yeah, so you can see I have this yarn here and this yarn here, but I figured they're far enough away, so it wouldn't make that much of a difference. This first row, you can see I've been in a blue-green mode for a very long time. I'm gonna have some yellows and reds and stuff coming in eventually, but now I can take all those stitch markers off. On to books. I am reading still Outlander. I've stalled. It's a good story, okay? I'm going to finish because I want to know what happens. You can see where I'm at here. My beef with it, there are too many steamy bedroom scenes. I knew that it was known for that. There are too many. I'm like, can we just get on with the story now? So I've stalled, but I think I've reached a point where that's finally getting past all that, so maybe I can pick up more. It's really interesting, you know, that was what was fun writing The Stone of Kings was, you know, it's a time travel adventure, so you have one mindset trying to understand another time mindset. That's the fun part of the story, and that's what wants me to keep reading, because I want to know, you know, what happens next. I just hope there aren't any more bedroom scenes. I'm not sure that I'm going to read the next one, because I know this is a series. I'm like, can we just get past this, please? I'm done. Oh, and by the way, you'll see it looks like a library book. It used to be a library book. This is one of those that I bought. I used to volunteer at a used bookstore at the library in Colorado. I saw this, I'm like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and give it a try. So that's why it looks like one, but it's no longer library property, and I will redonate it to somewhere. I've also started reading Misdiagnosed. I'm only about on the 4th chapter. So one of the reasons it has taken me so long to record is because I've been having some major GI issues. So I decided, you know, this has been on my shelf for a while. I've been meaning to get to it, and I thought, well, you know what? I need to do it now, because I'm not happy with my doctors here. All kinds of stuff that I've had in my life that was fixed with food. This, so far, is proving to be a pretty good read for me. This was published in 2014, and it has a whole section at the end, because I went and I looked through some of the chapter headings in the index or the table of contents, and there's a whole section on gluten. And I found out in 2011 that I cannot tolerate gluten. I'm not officially celiac. My grandmother was, but the doctor that I had when I was trying to figure all this out, the GI doctor, he was doing all these tests, never mentioned gluten. I spent a month trying to figure this out. He never mentioned it at all. And finally, at the very end, he's like, okay, well, we'll do a blood test. I did not know that I should have been doing a gluten challenge for the blood test. And I was down to eating just chicken noodle soup and oatmeal because I thought those were gentle for your system. And I don't think it was enough gluten to trigger that test. So I tested negative. It was not accurate at all. But I know now that I am extremely sensitive to gluten. I can't tolerate even the minutest crumbs. I reacted to animal cracker dust. And there's a whole other story. But I mean, literally, I cannot tolerate it. And I have been that way for the last 10 years. So, and I've had so many doctors throw pills at me for other things that I've finally figured it was cured by food. So far, I'm enjoying this read because it's actually very entertaining too. She's a journalist, and it poses as a promising read for me. When I finish Outlander, so this is a future read, I'm going to be reading this one. It's by Laura Parker. She played Angelique. Is that right? Angelique. I think that's her in the role for Dark Shadows. This might as well be the mom episode. I actually, my family quarantined for 2 weeks so that I could rent a car and drive up and visit my mom. Another reason why it took so long to do a recording. So I spent about 10 days with my mom. She and I, we used to watch the reruns of Dark Shadows when I lived there when I was in college. It's the only soap opera I ever got into. I'm not a soap opera person, but it's the supernatural element in the storyline that was a lot of fun. Not only that, but it was a lot of fun watching the actors flub their lines because it was live, and and all the hokiness that sometimes happened. Like you can see, the shadows of the microphone is, it's hovering over the actor. Sometimes it gets in the way of the lighting, so you can see the shadow of the microphone moving. I'm actually rewatching this series because I forgot a lot of it 20 years ago. It's on Amazon Prime, and so I'm only in the second season of the beginnings. There's a lot that I forgot. But I mean, there's a lot that I remember too. Mostly I remember, Victoria Winters coming on the train and Brooke Devlin being this antagonistic character. I don't remember the Salem section very much. So she wasn't in the beginning, she came later. And I remember watching that part, but it's been a long time. So I don't know when I'm going to get to this, but I will. I just have to watch a little bit more of the series before I get started on this one. And then when I'm done reading this, if I like it enough, if I think my mom will like it, I'll send it to her. She grew up on Dark Shadows, so that was a lot of fun to enjoy that with her. But I brought this with me thinking she might read it, but she's having some eye trouble, so she's gonna put off reading for a while. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to get into. I lost my natural lighting because I had to be a mom for a few hours. So I went out and I bought one of those ring lights now that I've lost my sunlight. And that also meant that I had to kind of reconfigure how I set up everything because it needs to be behind my computer. That's okay because you have a better view of Timmins this way. The last thing I wanted to say about the Dark Shadows book, it's not really about the book. I just thought it would be a lot of fun to try to come up with a harp arrangement actually for the theme song, but I don't know that my harp would be able to capture that spooky theremin sound. I like it. Actually, that's the ringtone I have from my mom. This is what I hear every time my mom calls. Another thing that I had hoped would happen when I went to visit my mom is, so she lives in Ohio, and it's a town that my ancestors have been in for, since the just after the Revolutionary War, actually. I think my great-grandfather was a surveyor for George Washington, and he's told him, go to this Ohio place. The story that I need to finish, and I haven't been working on it, is set there. It's about my granny's childhood. It's kind of toward the end of the Great Depression. It actually starts on December 5th, 1933, because that is when Prohibition was lifted. My great-grandfather owned a restaurant with a bar in it, so all of a sudden they could start serving alcohol again. The problem was that his wife was a terrible alcoholic. My great-grandmother was. And so I'm writing a story inspired by that. So she would go up and down Front Street when she was a little girl and help all the businesses open in the mornings. That was what she called making her rounds. This is a story inspired by all of that, and I was hoping that going back to Ohio, that town in Ohio, would kind of give me a little bit more inspiration. And I have been wanting to work on it, and then I was knocked on my feet by this awful GI issue I've been dealing with since then. And the last book I have to talk about is not a storybook. It's this one, Spinning and Dyeing Yarn. Andrea, the Catt Lady, who dyed my fabulous 17 micron yarn, she was gifted this book by somebody. I had to have a deeper look into it. A lot of it is beyond what I plan to do. Once upon a time, I took a spinning class, and I had a lot of fun. I would love to spin yarn again. I don't want to spend the money on a spinning wheel. I did have a drop spindle for a while, but I really want a wheel. So if you're not familiar, this is what a spinning wheel looks like. And I don't know where Sleeping Beauty gets the spindle, like where she would prick her finger, but this is a spinning wheel. What I really wanted to see about this book is that it gives you instructions on how to build your own spinning wheel out of PVC pipes and a bicycle wheel. And I just think that's fabulous. I am going to try that. I had actually hoped to do this there's a make-along, the New Year make-along. I guess they've been doing it every year for a while, and it's a new to you make-along. So you have to start a new craft that you've always wanted to do, or something yarn-related, or I guess fiber-related, really. Like if you've never cross-stitched, you could do that. I've spun before, but I've never built my own spinning wheel. I don't know that I'll be able to do this in time for the make-along, because I think it ends at the end of February. I'm still it's getting better because I had to tweak my foods, my diet, but I'm still struggling with some GI issues. So, and thanks to COVID, I also have very little energy. So I'm not sure I'm going to be building a whole lot until all that's done. Thanks a lot, COVID. Scout hasn't been letting me record. Every time she hops on my lap, it's because she wants someone to, either she curls up and goes to sleep, or she wants someone to take her on a journey. Although, I did say a few trigger phrases. We've had to modify the way we describe her exercise, because otherwise she gets all excited. The problem is if she's on my lap and somebody catches on and finally takes her out. Earlier today, somebody mentioned the W word, and she leapt off my belly right where I'm the sorest, and it hurt. Currently, she is curled up on the blanket next to my chair. Hopefully she stays like that. I never thought it was going to take a week for me to get this recording done, but when Scout leapt off my belly about an hour later, I had some really intense spasming in my abdomen from it, right where her little paw just dug in so she could leap off as far as she could. And then of course the weekend happened, and there's no way I can record on the weekend. I'm constantly interrupted, and the computer needs borrowed, and blah 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 blah. So I did get even a little more done. So that's where I was the other day, and so it's coming along. I've been feeling so lousy I didn't even do laundry, so I'm in my t-shirt and sweats today. I'm actually wearing my, sorry if I made noise on my microphone. This is my Clan Macintosh t-shirt that I got when I played at the Pikes Peak Celtic Festival. I got to play in the Macintosh tent, so for my clan. I also played in the Blair tent. I didn't know the Macintoshes were going to be there, and I reached out to the different clans, and the Blair clan very nicely welcomed me in, so I played at their tent as well. And they were very, very kind, because it rained a lot that day, and of course Timmins, she doesn't do well in the rain, so they were very sweet to take me in. It rained quite a bit, which is weird for Colorado. It really doesn't rain that much most of the time. I might make a little noise, but here is my Cambridge sweater. I don't know if you can hear me because that's right where the microphone is. But I spent the last summer of I got an English degree at USF, and the last summer I just spent a couple weeks at Cambridge taking some classes there. Loved it. That was definitely worth doing. I stayed at Selwyn College. When I went in, like it's like this square courtyard place with big brick buildings around it, and when I went in, it felt like I'd stepped into the secret garden. I loved it. I didn't have much else to say. I just didn't get a chance to finish. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it here. Stay tuned for some bloopers. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye. My next clip, I think I've messed up on. What are you doing, puppy? Sit up here? Why are you wagging your tail at me? Alright, cutie patootie. Oh, it's cold.